because this is one of the key psychological operations tactics is create an enemy, a shared enemy, right? That everybody can rally against. And so that can be any number of key words for the month, and people align against that because all of the problems that we're having is that group's fault.
Yeah.
And that just polarizes and makes us easier to control, and is one of the oldest weapons in the book.
Now it's men are at fault for everything. Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to another episode of Purpose of a Pleasure with your host, Alex Payne. And today we have the pleasure of having a fantastic person with us, the other half of the Reality Center, Mr. Tarun Raj. Thank you, brother, for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
There's been a lot of obstacles on the way, but thank you for being here. I'm glad you came out here, bro.
Of course, my pleasure.
And for you guys who don't know who this great person is, Tarun is a co-founder of Reality Center, which is a sensory wellness center and a digital psychedelic lab. I personally have experience of being there, and fantastic facility. We'll talk about that. And is also a CEO of Reality Management Technologies. So jack of all trades, or what they call a Renaissance man.
Depends on who you ask, right?
I know, right? I know, right? Yeah. But yeah, man, thanks for being here.
Again, I'm so glad we made this happen, and love the messages that you're able to put out there, especially for the community. You're one of the reasons why we have such a great presence now with police and fire. So
thank you, brother. That's an honor, man.
I think this takes a village.
It takes a village. Yes.
Yeah.
And you guys do amazing work.
Thank you.
From day one, since I first walked into the Reality Center, I fell in love with it. With Jonathan and you guys do great work. Yeah. Let's tell our viewers what Reality Center is about. We're going to talk a little more. I want to know what goes on here. How did you eventually created this? But let's give them a little bit of what the center is about.
Yeah, really, Reality Center is a place where people can come together and reset their nervous system very quickly, right? The biggest contributor to mental health and disease is oftentimes stress, right? And so by using technology that synchronizes the senses, you can put the body into a state of rest, right? And so as you know, when you come in, you're lying down on a vibration bed of either liquid or foam, and that's like a whole body massage, but what it's really doing is helping guide your nervous system in a state of safety. And then we use light and sound, which create different patterns, which then calm your brain down. And so all of those synchronize together, bring you to a state of this rapid nervous system reset. Right, and so for folks who have PTSD or very heightened states of nervous system triggers and hypervigilance, then going through that to induce a meditation, right, or induce a deep state of self-reflection can be tremendously powerful and very important for those who have very active minds and they can't meditate, or they can't really bring themselves down into that state of rest and reflection. So Reality Center is a facility in which we provide these personalized experiences which help balance and reset the nervous system.
You know what's crazy is when I first tried the Reality Center, right, I was so out of line, I guess, with my conscious state at the time. Well, first of all, I was on duty, right? So I can only allow myself to be zoned out for such a small percentage. I'm still, it's like, it's part of the wellness center, part of the activities, right? It's part of something I have to go through, but it's just, I was in such a heightened state that I was like, this is interesting, but I don't really know what it's about. And I did it again. And I think I did it one more time after that, or the third time, when I came in like relaxed, just in comfortable clothes. I didn't have to worry. I have to took my watch off, my phone off, and I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna be right here. I'm gonna be present. And it's funny because that day it was the post PTSD retreat day, right? First we had the workout with Sub-Zero, and then we had you guys and Experience the Reality Center. So I was kind of mentally prepared for it, and my fiance said, just promise me you're going to be present. I don't know what the hell that means still, but I was present, bro. I loved every part of it. The you know the just being able to kind of dive into it. I almost felt like for the first time ever, I like digitally meditated.
Right? How powerful is that? Because not only is this happening to your body, it's a sense of accomplishment, right? And there is a challenge there, right? For anything good, it takes time, it takes patience, it takes repetition.
Mm-hmm.
And so by sticking with it, you're able to see this outcome, not just because we did something to you, but because you chose to be present that day. You chose to listen to your fiance. Probably a good idea.
Yeah.
But also knowing that you can separate yourself from that version of you that's on duty, that has to have that hypervigilance in order to stay safe and protect people. And also that version of you that needs to protect yourself, right? And allow yourself to receive and be restored by these moments of peace and serenity in between all the chaos.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so really appreciate the commitment to doing these things for yourself, because as a police officer, it's so important that as you engage with the community, you have the most balanced and the most calm version of yourself as you go out into the
Yeah.
madness.
Yeah, dude. Speaking of that, man, it's tough. It's
I
tough,
can't imagine. I mean, we're in
especially
Santa Monica,
nowadays.
and it's not pretty on those streets, and there's a lot of mental health issues and a lot of violence,
Yeah.
and you never know where it's going to come from. So doing these types of things, and that's why we want to really support this community in having tools that maybe even government won't provide at this
Mm-hmm.
point,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it takes people to just sort of push the limit.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like even though it's 2024 and we've progressed from the law enforcement times where you don't talk about things, you don't do this, you don't do that. Yes, we've moved forward. We've made big changes,
Mm-hmm.
but still, I don't think there's enough. And there's some departments have less, some departments have more, but overall, I think mental health and overall wellness it should be emphasized a lot more because, like what you said earlier, if you're a balanced, healthy person in the right state of mind, you'll be a more effective police officer.
Absolutely. You'll be a more effective police officer, husband or wife, right? Father. All these things directly are affected by how we feel on the inside. And oftentimes, to get rid of all that tension, we don't go inwards. We
No,
just try to distract ourselves.
inwards is hard.
It's really hard.
Inwards is hard.
It's really hard. You know, listening is one of the greatest meditations. We have to understand who's speaking, right? Sometimes the voices in our head are not our own. They're just distractions or things from outside of ourselves or even our subconscious patterns. But truly listening and quieting the mind is profound and can change the way that we perceive ourselves, that like how much we can feel our bodies even, right? Listening to every aspect of our cellular memory,
Listening to
right?
yourself.
Listening to yourself,
Okay.
right? And what is the narrative? Like, let's say you said you hurt your bicep, right? And so if you keep telling yourself, oh, my biceps hurt, oh, my arms hurt, I can't do this, I can't, what happens? Everything listens, right? So the rest of your body starts being like, oh, we're injured, let's overcompensate, let's tighten the fascia, let's decrease blood flow. The mind starts playing tricks and be like, oh, I'm not as strong as I used to be. What kind of man am I if I can't, lift what I was lifting before? And like all these things, you feel like we're going backwards. And so shifting the mentality and like, yes, I can do that. I can be present. I can be powerful in just receiving and allowing myself to have this experience, right, of well-being, and then be a better person out of that. But it all comes down to what story are we telling ourselves?
All right. I'll poke some holes in that theory. Well, mostly I want to know, can I use that same strategy to heal my bicep?
There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of science that the mentality of somebody is dramatically going to change how fast they heal, right? Deepak Chopra, he's sort of a spiritual master at this point, a teacher. He was a cardiologist, I believe, before. And one of the things that, or actually, no, I believe he was a oncologist, so cancer doctor, right? Either way, he attributes a lot of his shift into spirituality by seeing that the people who would survive from these major diseases were the ones who had the most powerful attitude, that they were going to heal, that they were going to actually come out of this, right? And so it's been observed enough times that, of course, this is not 100% going to wind yourself out of a major sickness just by thinking positively. But it does have a major effect, because that will to survive, right, which you can see in combat, right, like a Medal of Honor recipient gets shot multiple times, still ends up completing their mission and doing all these things, or a mother who lifts an entire vehicle to save her child, right? That's will, that's mind over matter, right? And so in deciding, hey, I'm not going to take on this pattern that I'm hurt, it's I'm not as strong as I once was. And that will just change every day that I continue working on it, right? You take the power out of this idea that you're stuck this way, right? And you're just in progress, as we always are. We're in progress of healing something. And maybe it was an indication you needed to slow down, right? And
That was my indication, dude.
Yeah, oftentimes, like,
yeah.
if we don't listen the first time or the 10th time, our bodies, the universe has a way of correcting course. And if we listen, then we come back stronger than ever, right? And
My fiance recently sent me a quote. It says something along the lines of, if you don't take time to give your body a break, your body will take a break for you. And usually that will happen during the most inconvenient times.
That's right.
That's what happened to me, dude. I think when I got shingles, like a month ago, it was at a very, very inconvenient time. And it took me out. I was out, bro. I didn't even leave the house for days, for almost a week. Sucked. And it was it was
And
tough.
we know that in many ways, especially shingles or other autoimmune issues, that is stress induced. Right?
I didn't know it was stress induced. I didn't know that.
I had it when I was young, which normally kids never get shingles when they're young.
Yeah.
And I used to get sick around like things like standardized tests. I just had a very like heightened nervous system, a lot of stress. I was in that sort of sympathetic fight or flight all the time. And so around these things that were highly stressful for me as a kid, it would show up in physical symptoms. Wow. And so that's what first started teaching me, like, wow, there's a lot that's going on in my mind that is contributing to me not feeling good.
Yeah.
And that's when I started turning to meditation when I was in my 20s and, going down this path that has led me here.
Yeah.
But we can also think about when you were sick, when you're going through that injury and all these things, which is obviously you're still recovering. You look great now. So, obviously that's...
I just figured out how to eat to maintain.
Right?
Literally.
So
that's all I did.
That's
I
what I
ate
was
to
going to say.
maintain.
That's what I was going to say. You have now opened the door to new possibilities, right? New knowledge that you didn't have before because you needed to address that, right? So you're coming out of it now better equipped to manage your stress, manage your body, manage your nutrition, many different things that would have maybe not happened in that way had this not happened to you.
Fair point. That's a fair point.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all a mystery. I mean, let's just be real here, but through constant observation of these patterns, we can learn that these things sometimes happen for us, not to us.
That's a big one. Because a lot has happened in the last few months, and it almost makes you believe this saying, right? When you ask the universe to give you certain things, expect for shit to go sideways, because when the universe starts giving you the things you want, it's also it starts restructuring life around you. So you might get fired, you might get sick, something might happen that looks bad in the beginning, but it's because the universe is like, all right, I need to cut you off from here and then shape you up right here. And
That's right. Absolutely. And it's like a contract, right?
mm-hmm.
And so it would be like signing a contract with God, the universe, whatever you believe in, that just got a couple bullet points, right? It needs to be very detailed. And that's why these ideas of like manifest the life of your dreams, just think about having a new car, what it's like to drive a new car.
Yeah.
Well, I know people have done that. And guess what? Their cars got totaled, so they got a new car, right? Or they got the job that they thought that they really wanted, but their boss was terrible, or they had horrible coworkers, or the commute was just taking it out of them. So if we don't think of all these different aspects of what is included in this thing that we really want, because I ask people every single day, what's your happy place? And people don't know. But they want to have the life of their dreams, but they don't know what that dream is yet. So
What's
it
your happy
takes
place?
that time. What's my happy
Yeah.
place? You know, it depends on the state I'm in, because there's different experiences that I want to have. But for me, it has been recently the California poppy fields, right?
Okay.
With my girl, we took a trip out there, and it was
Where's
just,
that at?
it's sort of a little bit like northwest, like past Ventura area, but
Yeah.
it's just this beautiful super bloom of flowers, as pretty much as far as you can see, right? And so for me in the physical, that's a place with the person that I care about, and that just makes me feel like nothing else matters.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's also a happiness that comes from just consciousness, right? When you're just in deep meditation, you're totally present and nothing matters. You just feel connected to everything. And that's where we try to take people in that reality center experience. We're just like, wow, I can trust everything's going to be okay. I can be or see whatever it is that I want. That is, I think, the most powerful place somebody can be, right? You'd be like, I'm unlimited.
Yeah.
That's the greatest gift that I've ever received by, doing any of these types of practices.
How did I remember Jonathan told me a story of the whole Reiki experience that he had that you gave him, and then that changed his life and he became the new Jonathan sort of.
Yeah.
What that's what really happened? You gave him a session?
Yeah, it did.
And
Basically, what I found is that as somebody who's been in his head a lot,
mm-hmm.
like in my own head, and I've been working with Jonathan, like I said, for a decade. And coming out of the military, being a machine gunner with that same personality.
Dude, remember that video of him yelling at one of the soldiers?
Yeah.
Just like cussing the shit out of him.
It's like, and that's the culture that's created,
Yeah.
right?
And now he's a totally different person.
Combatives, trainer, all
Yeah.
this stuff. And I had this very heightened nervous system, like I said, and so I started learning these different modalities, one of them being Reiki and sort of energy, how to move your energy. And what I found is when we are in our heads and that energy is moving really fast, like our brain waves moving fast, our heart rate, our breathing, we're excited, right? When we go to sleep, what happens? Our brain waves, our heart rate, our breathing slows down to stillness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where this dream state or meditative state, the theta brainwave state, exists.
Mm-hmm.
So in Reiki, we just learn how to move the energy to a different place, whether it's between our hands, or if it's a different place in our bodies, or if it's just assisting somebody else in becoming aware of that part of their body at that moment. So when they breathe, they say, hey, I'm going to breathe all the way down, instead of getting it stuck up here where a lot of the anxiety happens, right? When we don't properly breathe, we're just like going. And so just bringing awareness to the lower back, which is what I did for him while I was talking about it. He took a deep breath and his nervous system started calming down, and he was able to become aware, hey, I don't have to feel like this. I can breathe through it with this assistance and become mindful of where I'm focusing my energy right now. I don't need to be so hyped up. in this moment. And that self-awareness is really what it's required to maintain that, right? But Reiki is just another powerful modality to help people move their energy and realize, how powerful we are.
My fiance practices it, and she's done it on me a couple of times. And I've gone like sound baths and stuff.
Yeah.
And to me, it's at least at this point in my life, it's more of a very helpful state of relaxation.
Yeah.
I can't say I walk in there and immediately I'm a Buddhist monk, like, and meditating somewhere outside of my body. No.
No.
But like sometimes I just go take a nap, bro. Sometimes I actually listen and I was like, okay, cool. Breathing helps. Breathing actually would help me meditate for the first time. You think that's why?
It's some of the most important things that we do is what we decide to breathe in, right? Like there's a electrical current going through, there's moisture in the air. We're electric water beings,
Fair
right?
enough. Correct.
And as we breathe in, we can decide how we want to take in that breath, right? The intentional breath. Like, what am I breathing in right now? Calm. Or sometimes you're breathing in stress because you don't have breath, right? You're like, right? Those are two different breaths that do two totally different things.
Yeah.
Right?
Very true. Very true.
And so when you're in that state of calm, you're like, okay, I'm just going to take a breath for the sake of breathing and feeling good. It just takes everything down.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think it is the most important precursor to meditation or really doing anything. Even if you're running or exercising or training, whatever it is, controlling the breath even as you pull a trigger, right? It's all in that. It's in that being present in that moment, knowing exactly what you're connected to and what your goal is, and gradually moving the energy, whatever that might be. That can obviously be very difficult.
It's very difficult.
It's very difficult, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't think there's any need to say, hey, I'm going to become this super spiritual master on the first try.
Reiki master.
Right? It took me 15 years to get to where I was at, in training in these modalities, to the point of where I can say, hey, I can provide you this experience and have a expected result. But a lot of it is just the mindset, like knowing that, hey, if you put your hands over somebody, right, it's not like this hocus pocus craziness, right? Because even as a practitioner, there's something called energy of certainty, right? You have to be certain that this is going to happen in order for it to properly transmit through you. Because all you're doing is just really being a transmitter, right? Mm-hmm. There's energy around us, right? Mm-hmm. In quantum physics, if you choose, through the observer effect, if you choose to measure the energy that is passing through, then it will appear in a certain pattern. There's this thing called the double slit experiment, where they shot light, essentially photons, through these two holes, and they expected them on the other side to appear as two slits of light. But they didn't. They just scattered everywhere. Then they put measuring devices on there to sort of look at why that was scattering that way, and they appeared as two perfect slits. And so that started this concept of the observer effect, and realizing that, going back to our earlier conversations about this being a simulation, that based on our perception is the reality that we see. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And so when you go and you say, like, I am calm, I'm healed, I'm going to take this breath and feel that, you're creating your reality. And that's why all of that, the breathing, the visualizing your happy place, is the most important precursor for getting into a session at Reality Center.
You think it's better to meditate in the morning or at the end of the day?
Depends on the person. But I think in the morning, if you had to choose, just because that's how you're starting your day, right?
Well, I started my day very violently.
Right. So, if you start your day with like being more balanced,
Yeah.
it can't hurt you. And going to bed, right? Like we spend how much of our day, maybe 8 hours of our day, depending on who you are, sleeping. Right? So what's the program you're running during your sleep cycle? That can be determined by a meditation or just a mindfulness or gratitude before bed. So those are two key importance because it's just giving ourselves an opportunity to run a specific program.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How do I want to feel? If I don't put anything into that program, if I don't actually set my intention, then I'm just, whatever is going to happen to me. I don't have any control over that. At least this is our ability to say, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, and actually create some forms of those patterns. And the more you do that, the more you believe it, the more it feels right, and the more we tend to see results.
I think it goes along the same lines of, when you live your life as a conscious human being, when you have purpose and you're conscious and you're self-aware, you for the most part tend to make your own life. Versus when you just don't give a shit, you have no purpose, you just kind of live day to day, and the life drags you from place to place until you die. And when you're about to die, you really have not accomplished anything and you have a lot of regret.
Right? And most of those people will say, I wish I just did what I loved. Right? And that is the best way to find your purpose. It has been for me, at least, and a lot of the people I've worked with. Purpose over pleasure. Sometimes you have to choose that which is more difficult, which is something that we know that we should be doing, right? As opposed to the quick fix, the easy distraction, the pleasure. Now, when you can find both of those things, then I think you're finding alignment, because I think life is supposed to be joy, right? We're supposed to be able to find those because that lets us keep going. Delving too much into the shadows and the darkness of our histories and the things that we haven't done right, it doesn't do anything positive for our growth, right? Being aware of it is important, of course, but dwelling on it,
Nah, it doesn't get any,
no,
doesn't do
right?
any good. A lot of the trauma is inherited from a childhood
Yes,
in all of us.
absolutely.
Now, it's interesting thing you said. You said you think life is about joy, right? Now, if life is about joy, which I agree with you, at least I choose to, why is it that we have certain places in the world that are absolute hell? And why is it that certain people, like for example, your culture, Indian culture, you guys have castes.
Yeah.
And we all know that once you're born a certain caste, it's pretty much you're stuck in that caste forever. And, for those who are unfamiliar with Indian culture, like certain castes to look on upon as dirt.
Yeah.
And it's like, so what is that? If your life is supposed to be joy, now are we tapping into more of you must have been really bad in your previous life that now you've earned the suffering? Or
Perhaps.
this is a test for you to go through the suffering so that in the next life you can be somewhere wonderful and joyful. What is it?
Well, I'll speak from my own life. It hasn't been joyful the whole time, that's for sure. And I think that pain is what allowed me to understand joy, or at least pursue it, right, in a more pure way than some of the ways I had been distracting myself with, what somebody who's in early 20s, 30s, growing up in Los Angeles, being part of the entertainment and media industry, and just doing the things that are not good for your soul, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so when I realized what pure, like real joy, real happiness, connection, love was, it became very obvious to me that that's what lights me up, right? I see how that changes communities and families. When that true aspect of that love, that joy is there, it's present, then it makes you want to work for it, right? To your point about those who are not experiencing that in this lifetime. I think it's once again a reminder for those who have privilege to do better. I get motivated when I see those who don't have the means that I have to go help them, right? Or to be better at what I do so we can maybe level the playing field a little bit, right? Because we can only make so much impact, right? We have to start with ourselves first, right? Be that
Always.
example. And then we can help others even better. And so every time I see people going through traumatic situations, I get more motivated to keep doing what I'm doing and to make sure that we can provide help, services, experiences that might make that person's life a little bit better. And it'll take a long time. It takes a village, right? And the more that we mobilize together, then the more impact that we can make. Because these wars that are being fought, they're not decided by the civilians. Nobody wants that.
Mm-mm.
It's a war for resources, for politics, for power, which 99.99% of the people don't get to experience the benefit of it. They just want peace. They want family. They want love. They want to eat. They want a clean place to live, right? The basics. And so I think it's important that as we have privilege, to find the things that light us up so we can keep going and we can keep being of service.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. Did your parents or family ever like question you and your journey? You know, because it's not
Oh, yeah.
it's not usual, right, for a
No,
person for your background to do what you do, right?
Yeah.
Usually it's a lot of scientists and doctors
of course.
and
Yeah, yeah.
engineers. So
Yeah.
how was that? How was
No,
that experience?
It was tough, right? Because as you're trying to find your way and you're being said, hey, B,
How old were you?
I'm
Were
going
you
to be,
when that started?
oh, I mean, how old was I when that started? I mean, that was from as soon as I could remember, right? Because my dad is a
Bred and born.
physician. You know,
Really?
his dad is an engineer. His dad, whole family, engineers, lawyers, doctors, etc. Right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Here comes the ADD artist kid, right? And his equivalent brothers. Growing up, you know, after they had just immigrated, you know, growing up as LA kids.
Yeah.
In that culture, them not understanding what it's like to grow up in a space like this, that it's not the same rules that apply.
Yeah.
And so that was hard to navigate, and it took many years for me to feel confident, like this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and got my, you know, master's in arts, right? And that was me showing my commitment, like, hey, I'm going to take out my loans and I'm going to go do this, right? Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. I chose myself, and that took a long time because you don't know who you really are sometimes, right? You're supposed to be a doctor's son. And I was like, I don't know what that means. You know what I mean? That to me is like this certain mindset of how you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to think. And that leads to success for a lot of people. For me, just being much more on the creative, conceptual side, that was really difficult. I had a terrible memory, right, for specific facts. So to do like biology and organic chemistry that a doctor or somebody scientist
It's a lot of
needs
memorization,
to do.
yeah.
A lot of memorization, but
I hated it.
I could solve all of the word problems. You give me, you know, hey, come up with a solution to this complex, you know, problem that we have with all these different variables. I could see patterns really well. I could design things really well. And so it makes sense to go after people's strengths, right? And I think that's becoming more prevalent now. But in those days, I'm, you know, in my 40s now. In those days, that wasn't a thing. You just sort of fit into a certain cog in the wheel and you do your thing, especially with immigrant families. So I think the one moment where there was this, hey, our kids are actually doing something powerful beyond some of the productions that we had been part of. You know, we've worked with different presidents and famous artists and things like that as our creative agency back in the day. But when we were in the LA Times, that was a big moment because that generation is the only generation that really reads newspapers.
You're the
Right?
last one, dude.
You know what I'm
You're the
saying?
last
So
one,
it's
yeah.
like, hey, it's real. You know what I'm saying?
Touch it.
Yeah, you could touch it. Like,
Yeah.
wow, you know, and then their friends get the newspaper also. So it was this validation that not only to them, but to the world, that what we're doing is powerful, it's helpful, and it is going to be this mainstream cultural movement of people taking back their own health and their power.
Very well, and you made it. I mean, they can't tell you shit now.
Yeah, well, I was like, now I'm like a mad scientist, you know, back alley energy doctor, right? So it's still, you know, still
Yeah.
taking on the family business of
Yeah.
helping people heal.
Yeah.
And so that I think has always been my path in a way. Our middle brother, he's our chief technology officer, Pranab. So he builds a lot of the software and technology. So it's become a family thing. They've been super supportive and realized the impact it can make. And so it's been quite a trial to get to this point, but I do feel like now it is a family effort and affair.
How long has the reality center been operational and works? You know,
About 2.5 years. Yeah.
so shortly after COVID, I remember.
Yeah, we got the lease right as COVID was ending, so we
Mhm.
got a good deal because
Mhm.
people were like, "What are you doing? You're
Mhm.
opening a brick and mortar.
Mhm.
This is the
Those are
worst
tough
time
times,
for
dude.
that."
Those are tough times.
Oh yeah, and we didn't know what we were doing. We just knew, hey, we need to have a place that people can come and experience this, because doing all of the medical products and PPE donation drives and, you know, sales, we were moving millions of items of PPE to places that couldn't get it during COVID, because we had those relationships. And even my dad couldn't get N95s as a doctor. They're trying to get him to go and see, you know, people with COVID, sick patients without any PPE, right? It was just crazy. So I saw so much corruption in that space, and just more than anything, so much pain. So it became so obvious that the technology that we have at Reality Center was going to be extremely important in the coming times where people are more traumatized than ever. And,
After COVID,
you know, and the medications aren't necessarily all they're cracked up to be, right? Western medicine doesn't have all the answers, and preventative and alternative methods can truly help people, especially when we're seeing the importance of a balanced nervous system being the precursor to
yeah.
true well-being.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the nervous system, right? I'm realizing more and more that everything in your body is connected, and everything is connected to your mind and your central nervous system. What is like the everyday thing that we can do? Meditation is one of them, to keep your nervous system healthy and strong, especially if you're a entrepreneur, athlete, CEO, or somebody, you know, with a busy lifestyle, stuff like that.
Yeah. Sleep with the circadian rhythm and all the body's ability to restore itself. If we can't achieve deep levels of sleep, and as an entrepreneur and as a crazy person, I have struggled with that in my time. It was actually the reason I started learning Reiki, was because it was the ability to move all this activity out of my brain and into my body. It helped cure my insomnia. So if we can't sleep, then our hormones like our melatonin goes out of whack, and there's a lot of studies that have shown that excess use of melatonin, especially for males, really, it's a hormone, right? And so it offsets our testosterone and a lot of cascading effects that can lead to reduced or increased impotency and
Melatonin.
yeah.
Like if we take it on the side, like pills or something.
Yeah, because
Wow.
if basically melatonin is released through the circadian rhythm, so if you are offsetting that its natural production, then it won't produce as much, right? So there's a lot of controversy around the benefits of taking, people are popping gummies of high dosage melatonin, and even flicking the lights on in your bathroom as if you wake up and you have to go to the bathroom, flicking the lights on and that bright light, that will offset your circadian rhythm, right? And that's why the blue light blockers and all these things have become so popular. Is that red light as you get to bed, the blue light to wake you up, just like the sun, right? When the sun sets, it's red, and that's the signal, natural signal to start winding down. But I used to turn up at that time.
Yeah.
Right?
All kinds of disco lights, dude.
Right. So that was like the night owl. And so one of the reasons why we keep it sort of in this like nighttime dream state at Reality Center is it takes people's systems down. So second thing is creating an environment around yourself in which you can switch off, right? I used to work from home, especially when I was living with Jonathan. Like, our office is our home, right? And without that separation, you never turn off, especially as an entrepreneur or somebody who's really driven and purposeful. You're never going to turn off, right? And so it's important to have that space in which it's sacred. This is my time. I'm going to wind down, calm down, and let myself go and just relax, because we're a battery, right? If we never recharge that battery, it's got a limited life.
My struggle with that, and I'm guilty of that. My struggle is that every time I think I need to relax and wind down, I'm gonna miss an opportunity, and I'm not doing enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing. I'm not doing enough. I haven't done enough today, or I'm gonna miss the sale or not close the deal. That's my thing. And then my fiance she's always on my case, obviously for my own good, about needing to relax, needing to find my that zone, that time for myself. And then recently, last couple of 2-3 Sundays, I was able to carve out some time, maybe go chill by the pool, go to church. Yeah, I started going to church. Maddie, invited me to his church, and I fell in love with it, Ocean's Church. And and honestly, I feel good.
Yeah, I mean,
It helps.
what's the price that we pay as entrepreneurs?
Everything, bro.
Everything.
Everything.
Right? And so you start thinking, like, what's the point of this if I can't enjoy that process, and if it's always goal outcomes? Because there's never a finish line. It's just the post keeps moving. Like, okay, I achieved that goal. What's the next one? What's the next one? What's the next one? So it's so important just to take those moments to yourself to recharge that battery, to fill your cup, and to enjoy the fruits of our labor, right? Regardless of what it looks like on paper, like, it's still this energy that we're putting into something we're passionate about, and that is being created, right? But it's just like a breath. It has to expand and it has to contract, right? So you have to have the time in between to integrate and be like, okay, what is it all that I've done? What does that look like? How can I improve it? And then go back stronger again, right? It's like playing sports and watching the tape, getting in the ice bath, doing your recovery stuff. Then you go back into the next one, stronger, wiser, and ready to improve on your last performance, right?
Do you take ice baths?
I do. Not as often as
What about cold showers?
cold showers. Yeah. I turn it cold at the end of my shower, and my brown skin is very averse to it, does not like cold. I'll sit in a sauna all day.
Yeah.
The cold plunges have been a challenge, but
I
it's
was
really
recently
good.
told that it's not always so good to have to do these cold plunges all the time or every day
No.
or cold showers every day, which I've been doing for years. Because when you're sick, when your nervous system is already stressed out and imbalanced, and then you go put your body through like a brutal workout or a cold plunge or a cold shower on a consistent basis, that just makes it worse. Is that
Yep.
true?
Um, it seems to be. I'm not an expert in that specific field, but I do keep my finger on the pulse of the science. And if you just think about how the body works, right? If you're freezing, what's going to happen? All the non-essential organs are going to
Mm-hmm.
divert blood flow to the essential organs, the core.
It's a fight or flight reflex that's kicking in.
Exactly. So you're putting yourself
Parasympathetic
into
system.
a parasympathetic, a fight or flight mode in that moment, right? And so if it is a controlled stress response, right? So it's essentially resilience training in a lot of ways. Also, it can help tremendously with inflammation and things of that nature. There's a lot of good science about it, but anything in excess is always going to be a problem, especially when you're doing contrast therapy and you're going from super hot to super cold and back and forth. It's just a lot going on for your system to
That's
be
the
able to
fun stuff, though.
process, right?
Sauna, cold plunge. Sauna, cold plunge.
Yeah, it is. And when you do that, it's important, just like if you were to take a psychedelic or you to do anything, to integrate that, let your body rebalance itself, right? It's when we don't give it the opportunity to go straight to work, go straight to duty, right? And then back home, eat, and then sleep, and then do it again. Guess what? Your body just has no ability to calibrate what that actually did for you.
Dude, I've done that for years.
Yeah.
Sleep for like 4 or 5 hours on the most uncomfortable bed at work, or even less hours at home.
Yeah.
Wake up, cold shower, back to work.
So what's really interesting, right, is in working with active duty versus, let's say, veterans or
Yeah.
those that have
Yeah.
retired. When you're active duty, whether it's what you're doing or even a nurse or a doctor, there's no time to stop. Right? So the whole goal is like, what can I do that's going to give me enough juice to keep going?
Energy drinks,
Right?
cold showers.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
And much worse. So,
Yeah.
right? So the this idea that those are the only solutions is one of the things that we're trying to combat, right? Because truly just that rebalance, that rest receiving like you do for that hour on one of our systems, that will make it almost it feel like a full night of sleep, and then your energy comes back like you may have taken an energy drink, right? Like you've experienced that sort of natural feeling of when we're truly rested and we're truly reset and centered. And the veterans, for example, they've had years out of the service and they know, hey, I need help, right? Because I'm having thoughts or I'm having feelings or I'm doing these things that are just not serving me. And so there's a big difference, and there's this importance of educating people who are still in it how important it is to take the breaks now and to watch that now, because when you get out, that's when the results, positive or not, are really going to take shape.
It's almost like you either have to pay the price up front or you're going to pay the price at the end. Up front is obviously meditating, eating clean, working out, cold shower, whatever it takes. Or even healthy eating, dude, is expensive,
It is expensive.
right? Or good supplements. But if you don't do that, you have to pay the price at the end. Cancer, chemo,
Yeah.
therapy, surgery,
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of shit. So, which one do you choose?
That's right. And some can be said that it's done by design. I come from a world of advertising where, there's billions of dollars
I believe
poured
in that. I believe in that.
into making people think that they need things that they don't, or that something is safe that it's not. I mean, cigarettes used to be promoted as something that was safe and beneficial, right? Same with all these opiates,
Remember?
right?
Yeah.
And it really takes the people to come up and say, no, this is killing all of us.
So right now it's almost out of control. Look at the FDA or that commission, whatever they call it, related to food.
Yep,
There's
USDA.
USDA, right? There's so much BS there, dude. They're telling you to eat margarine instead of butter. Like, dude, growing up, like you never eat margarine. That's made to cook some like bottom dishes or something like that.
Yeah,
Who eats margarine? Or like
That's
do
right.
this or eat vegetables, don't eat meat.
That's
Or
it's oils,
drink this milk,
right?
drink soy milk instead of raw milk. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Mhm.
I've been eating now every day for breakfast for the last at least 4 months, I would say, maybe even 6 months. My breakfast consists of at least 5 eggs,
Mm.
sometimes six, depending on the size of egg. 5 eggs, some kind of source of protein, whether it's steak, carne asada, burger, bacon, and then raw cheese.
Mm.
Like good quality cheese, not some sliced plastic Sargento bullshit, right? But it's like good quality cheese that I'll buy myself. Oh, and some avocado and berries. Berries is the only source of carbs that I'll eat.
Mm.
For months, dude. Feeling great.
Yeah.
Feeling great. I totally cut out carbs for my breakfast. And my breakfast used to be instant oats,
Yeah.
toast,
Pancakes.
yeah, I do pancakes. I still do protein pancakes.
Yeah,
Once
yeah,
a
like the
once a
keto
week.
pancakes or something.
Once a week. I think it's called Kodiak protein pancakes
Yep.
because my fiance makes this wonderful banana protein pancakes.
Oh.
I can't let those go.
Yeah,
I can't let those go.
Nor should you, right? It's all about balance.
So
right?
once, maybe twice a week, she makes those for me. But other than that, that's the only carbs I eat, man. And if you just cut out the carbs, especially the processed carbs, man, a lot of your grogginess, a lot of your like fat, a lot of your just nastiness will go away.
That's right.
That shit is straight chemicals. When I look at the back, like coming from a science background, dude, like, what the hell? What, like, you read it, like, how is this even, how are you supposed to eat that shit?
Yeah, and it's the people making the rules. If there wasn't money in politics, we might have a lot different system,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So when you have the pharmaceutical industry and the FDA and like all these different agencies commingling, you retire from government, you go work at a private company. It's very difficult for us to assume when their priority is profit, how they're taking care of us, right? And so that is the challenge that we're facing, is that there's a lot of cards stacked against us. And my whole life or childhood, I was eat these cereals. There's calcium
Dude.
and vitamins,
Yeah,
and
horrible.
it's just, you look at it
Horrible.
now, it's pretty much everything causes cancer.
Bro, it's banned in a lot of countries.
Yeah.
Like, our cereal is banned in a lot of countries.
It is, as it should be.
Yeah.
Right? Even the water they're finding in the bottled water is like 270,000 micrograms of, of nanoplastic, microplastics.
Yeah.
So everything is saturated with the profits of
Yeah. For sure.
oil and gas or pharmaceutical companies.
But
and
even the
all
food
of these
industry
things.
itself.
And the food industry, which is driven, in a lot through those same mechanisms. And so it becomes up to this peer support where we can educate each other about how to heal, right? And so going back to when you hurt yourself and you became aware of new things that might be able to help you heal in more ways than just physically, right? New patterns, new ways of working, new ways of resting. And then you can tell the other people who might have the similar issues, hey, this is what I tried. This is what really helped. You should try this. Because coming from you as opposed to coming from somebody they don't know, your peers, let's say in the department, will listen to that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
You're right. First responders are tough.
They are tough.
People to deal with.
There's a culture, right? And
It's a culture. It's a whole culture.
Like, for example, if a doctor says they're having mental issues, right? Like they need mental support, they might not get their license renewed,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's this fine line we walk where we've created so much in the way of getting well that, thank God, now with the internet and social media, people are starting to wake up as to what's truly noise and propaganda and marketing and what's real. And even that's tough.
Yeah. I think definitely podcasting is the new way of social media and a new way of media.
Yeah.
I think we shifted away from channels and besides them sports channels. This is what it is now. This is where people
Yeah.
get their knowledge. This is where people get their information, and that's why it bothers me. Like we talked about earlier, when you have these industry planted podcasters that out of nowhere on their second or third episode have Tyga or Drake or Mark Cuban in there.
Yeah,
right?
we better get some of those guys in
You haven't
here,
guessed
right?
what I'm talking about yet. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
right? It takes. I mean, look at Joe Rogan, dude. How many over a decade, like 15 or 20 years, until he finally became so big, and they couldn't take it. They tried twice. They couldn't take him down.
No.
Twice they tried to take him down.
And that's the beauty of American media, at
Mhm.
least for now.
At least for now.
That
It's just a way of propaganda, dude. I don't like that.
yeah, it's been part of, I think, the machine for so long
Mm-hmm.
that many of us didn't notice,
Mm-hmm.
but now people are starting to notice, right? Because it's so obvious that there's mechanisms behind the scenes.
I don't think
right?
many people are starting to notice yet. I hope, because if they did, we wouldn't have what's happening right now. I mean, there's a lot of people like me and you
Yeah.
who take care of our mental state, our body, watch what we eat, work out, right? Invest in ourselves. And when you do that, you start to realize and you start to see through the bullshit, through the smoke. The smoke clears out.
It does.
And you start to clearly see things, see patterns, like you said before, see what this machine is doing to us.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, me and you both know there's still a lot of people out there who have no idea what they're doing. They don't even know why they're thinking a certain way. I'm sure you've seen those videos where
Yeah.
certain individuals go out there and challenge their opinions, and they're like, "You're a racist. You're a homophobe. You're a misogynist. Well, why?" I don't know. You are.
Right.
Well, articulate yourself.
It's that propaganda, right? And people want to fall into these buckets of ways of thinking because oftentimes it's easier to have an enemy, right? Something that is outside of yourself that's responsible for all the issues that you're having, right? It's really hard to take responsibility,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
but
yeah.
if you can say, hey, because this is one of the key psychological operations tactics is create an enemy, a shared enemy, right? That everybody can rally against. And so that can be any number of key words for the month, and people align against that because all of the problems that we're having is that group's fault.
Yeah.
And that just polarizes and makes us easier to control, and is one of the oldest weapons in the book.
Now it's men are at fault for everything. The reason behind one of the biggest reasons why I do what I do with my podcast, and my podcast dedicates to three things: freedom, masculinity, entrepreneurship. It's simple. Like women, the society is so brainwashed against men. Like, damn, if men just one day don't go to work, the society will collapse.
It will.
It will collapse. It's like what I think it was Netherlands or one of those countries, Iceland or something, like 3/4 or the third of a female population went on strike for a day. There's like 250,000 of them, right, on a strike for a day or for a few days. And guess what happened? Nothing. Nothing. The economy continued. The society, the infrastructure, everything continued. But can you imagine if men go on strike one day? Everything will collapse. There will be chaos. There will be no power,
it is
nothing,
true.
no water, nothing.
Yeah, it is true. The interesting thing is that in a society that prioritizes productivity and men working themselves to death, that is true.
Literally.
Right? Yeah, right? And so that is an aspect of what I consider toxic, right? Because it shouldn't be so polarized in which the men have to kill themselves in order to make this machine go and still feed the top 0.1%, right? The whole dream of like, okay, you carry a full-time job and an education, you're going to buy a house. I think it's 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and
Yeah.
those people are making over $150,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? That used to be, you're doing good.
Mm-hmm. With this inflation, that ain't shit.
It's nothing,
It's
right?
nothing.
And so if women quit, then the homes collapse, and then the males collapse too, right? So it's really this masculine and feminine balance which is so key, because I think when the man is more in touch with that softness, they are more open to taking care of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? And being better partners at home and being naturally making everybody happy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because you see like the men who are like the superpowers at top, they're the ones that are screwing everything up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then women have felt that they need to be like that in order to succeed in that world, and that doesn't work either, right? So it's like the pendulum swings so far, and it's really somewhere in the middle where people just want to have happy home life, right? Their families taken care of, safety, food on the table, and the whole like I have to be the most powerful, I have to be the best. That's actually not necessary with all of the resources and technology that we have, right? Like you see AI is starting to take a lot of jobs,
Dude.
right? Automation, all of these things are happening. Well, the only way to keep and maintain society is if those jobs that are taken, that money goes back into the society and goes back to the people, right? And they call it universal basic income, which is a lot of people are against because it seems like it's like a welfare state. But in reality, if the major tech companies are implementing these things, we don't have a choice, right? And so there has to be this exchange, right, where the women feel empowered at home, they are valued for taking care of their families, right, and building that home and that nurturing environment. And then a man that who's working his butt off can come back to and feel safe, that you can take a break, that the kids are maybe taken care of, that there's food on the table. I mean, that's a traditional sort of family structure, but you go out to war, you go into the field, you come back. If you don't feel safe and restored at home, how are you going to go back and do that again?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's that dynamic that I think we need to preserve, and the polarization of like having one group have to run everything, own everything. That's what's killing it for the rest of us.
That's what it's becoming to.
That
That's what it's
it,
coming down to.
it is.
It's almost like a cycle, right? So, bringing first they brought in women into the workforce because they realized, oh, we can double up our workforce.
Yeah.
They did that. Then they literally took the fathers away from the family. Then they turned women against men, and then they demasculinized men. So now you have no families, and you have double the amount of employees, brainwashed employees.
Yeah, and everybody, especially in our culture where there's, 3-4 weeks of maternity leave, barely no paternity leave. In other countries, they have months, years. Be like, oh, you just had a kid? Take care of that person, so that kid is going to grow up to be a productive member of society, right? Not here's this new family unit which we depend on. There's very low fertility and reproductive rates in other parts of the world, and so the world is facing actually a population issue. And one of the reasons why India is so powerful is because it has the largest working class of youth
Mm-hmm.
of any country.
They did very well with that.
Yeah.
China messed up their stuff.
They did.
India did very good. They are the
did.
new workforce, man.
Yeah.
A lot of businesses are just bouncing from China.
That's right. So what's like the GDP based on? It's the productivity of each individual. If you don't take care of the individuals, then there's no value in the country itself, and then it has to struggle to maintain holds, and that's where war and trying to take other people's resources, and that just has been a constant cycle, like you said, throughout cultures. But when we lose our way, when we lose our direction of morality and anything goes, then it becomes a problem because it's hard to find that unified north, that compass,
Yeah.
right? For everybody to rally around, like, yeah, we should be aspiring to be better people and to steward a better earth. None of this stuff matters if the earth just says, hey, you know what? You're done. It's happened many times
Yeah.
before, right? So it's like either you do a smash and grab, which is what it sort of feels like right now. Like, hey, while we still got time, let's get it all the resources, and then take a rocket ship to Mars, right?
Yeah, we're treating this planet as if we have another one to go to.
I ain't going to Mars. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I'm not really excited
yeah,
to go to Mars
you
either.
can take all of those guys and they can go, or the moon or whatever. Like, we have the most. I mean, we can't find another planet like this, right? With all of the technology,
It's
we can't find another
thousands
one,
and thousands of light years away.
right?
We've
So,
found habitable planets, but they're so far away, and
yeah.
we don't have existing sustained technology to be able to freeze ourselves and fly there for
No,
2,000
and it
years.
sounds miserable. I mean, just sitting in LA traffic is hard enough, right? I don't want that life.
You
I don't
land
want
there
that
and there's
life
like
for our
T-Rex
kids.
over there still.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
gotta fight off T-Rex.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't want that life. I don't want that life for our families, for our kids,
No.
or for our future. And if we just have to make certain changes in order to give ourselves a better chance, it's not like save the planet. It's save ourselves, right? We're committing suicide as a culture, right? Because of this, this attitude, this very selfish attitude, or that I need to get as much as I can while I can, because this thing is, burning to the ground. And just a couple degrees, I mean, we see how hot it's been all over the world, set breaking records constantly. I mean, the climate changes. There's no debate about who's causing it. Who cares? It's just happening, right? So we have to protect ourselves and take action, right? And I think that's what's important. I think that's what the youth get, or the younger generations, and these older folk that are really just stuck in their ways, because cognitively they can't change, right? The gray matter has become the white matter, and you can't teach these old dogs new tricks,
No.
right? And they don't want to change.
Mm-mm.
If you watch the debate, I mean,
Dude, what the hell, man?
wow. Wow.
I need a translator.
It was like, this is the best that we, as a organizational structure of government, this is the best that we can come up with.
It's horrible.
No wonder the aliens aren't coming down. They're
I
like,
know, dude. If I was an alien and I watched the debate, I was like, hey, man, somebody call an ambulance.
Yeah.
It's like, at least Trump walked away off stage by himself. See how Biden walked off stage?
Yeah, I mean,
His wife came out, said his security came out, and he still couldn't get down 2 stairs.
it's it's time for those that really believe in the potential of humanity, the goodness in humanity, hope, joy. It's time for those to step up.
But those are usually not the ones, I think, who would be willing to go far and wide.
Exactly. So that's why it's time. Like, it's necessity is the mother of invention. I mean, I haven't wanted to come on these podcasts, or, we haven't wanted to put ourselves out there because it is risky. Whenever you bring alternative methodologies of well-being to the forefront, those people and companies traditionally haven't lasted very long, right?
So you're facing the big giants.
We're facing the big giants.
Mm,
But if we don't do it now,
yeah.
there may not be another one behind us,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so it's really important to get the word out. And now we have people that are actually in government who have experienced what we do and what people like us do, and also witness how it's changed their families, their kids, their parents, themselves. And they're like, what we're doing is not working. And if our job is to protect and serve our communities, and the only solution we have is to give you more pills
Horrible
and things
solution.
like this, I think there's enough people out there that realize that change has to be made. And so fortunately, we don't have to do it alone.
Yeah. That's crazy. I didn't even look at it that way. You guys are in an innovative space. And you guys are bringing something to the table that's new, that I personally never heard of before. But I think we're building a team and we're spreading awareness.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, we're lucky. We're in the epicenter of wellness, of food, of entertainment, culture. You know, like Southern California is just this really unique place that ripples into the rest of the world. So what works here becomes the
Unfortunately.
model. Yeah, for good and for bad,
Yeah.
right? And so for us to be like, hey, this is the peak trend of well-being that is actually making impact that we can see in all these different places that weren't necessarily receiving that before.
Yeah.
That's all we need to do. We just need to keep doing what we're doing. It may take longer than I would like or that you would like, but it doesn't mean that it's not working, and it doesn't mean that it's not actually making the change that eventually will hit that, that tipping point.
No, it works. It works, and so I always enjoy talking to you guys about it, and I'm always trying to send my friends or whoever I know to you guys because I think you guys do good work.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, if it wasn't for Jonathan being on your podcast, we wouldn't be working with so many different people in police and fire.
Just the beginning, brother.
It's just the
tell
beginning.
everybody. There's a lot of us out there who need help, a lot.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, and I hope maybe some of my fellow brothers and sisters are watching this, right? And it's not an easy job. It's a tough job. It's not a crazy hard job to do, but it's tough in a way that it takes a toll on your body and your mental state. And a lot of times with a job like that comes a lot of toxicity and a lot of burden and weight and a lot of bad habits. What would you tell those officers out there in the field who are struggling, who can use some mental health help, who can use some this new technology to heal themselves, to work on themselves, to heal their, not only the stuff that we see on an everyday basis, but also their inner child. Like and you know how we are. We're very stubborn. We're very cynical. We're very certain way hard to deal with. So what would you tell them right now to just kind of let that guard down and be open to new things, not necessarily even reality standard, just different things out there to heal yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if I was to address this community, it would be, what if you don't? Right? If the negative things that are happening in your life, the things that you don't like in life, and if there's one door which you could choose in which you walk through it and it's the same thing, you can see where that path goes. And if there's another door which you can open, which might be a little uncomfortable, might be a little bit challenging, but who else is better equipped to deal with challenge and discomfort? Think of all the things you had to go through in order to get here that most people would not be able to do. So what's one more little challenge that it could actually change your life for the better? Isn't it worth taking that risk? Isn't that worth taking 30 minutes, an hour out of your day to potentially change your life for the better? Society owes those that serve the best chance because we all win when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so walk through those doors, listen to the peers, listen to your family, right? But most importantly, listen to yourself, right? When you know there's something wrong, it's out there, the solutions, and we just have to step through that door.
Yeah. If that's not enough for you guys, then I don't know what to tell you. Because it's sometimes we take big risks, man. Pulling a car over at 3 a.m. somewhere, dark alley, and it's just you sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's scary, but they still do it. So what's it to you to sit down for 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Or to go to a center like this for an hour, and just relax and let your guard down? Think about that. Really think about that.
Yeah. We're all in it together. We can't do this alone.
No.
Neither can you. And there's no fun in that anyways, right? Like, this is all, we all have different geniuses. We're all meant for different things. And when everybody can really do what they do best and they can feel supported in doing that, then that's when we all rise. And that's really what I think this next version of society has the opportunity to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm gonna close it off with the question that I ask all my guests, and I think you definitely one of those guests who I must ask that question. My question is two-sided. I always ask, what do you think is the purpose of life?
Mm.
And if there's a person out there who's struggling to find their purpose, how can they find it?
That's a good one. My purpose in life is to provide a level playing field for people. And what that means to me is this body, this human instrument that we have, is so powerful. And if we can provide awareness of how that machine works and how to tune it, we give everybody the best chance of being their best selves. When you're your best self, when people around us are their best selves, everybody improves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my goal is to help people find that happy place for them, to help that awareness really be shown and let the support be shown. Know that, hey, somebody has your back in this. You're not alone. And we've been there. We're not trying to be your guru. We're not trying to be your master, your teacher. We are just your friends. We are your peers. We have been there too. And we're continuing down this path together. So my purpose is to just show people that they have support and that there are ways and there are tools that you can be your best self. And for those who can't find that, I just say, try a little bit of everything. You know, the things that light you up. He said, if I could only do one thing, it had nothing to do with money, nothing to do with judgment. Who would I be? What would I do when I wake up in the morning tomorrow? Right? That question, a lot of people don't have the answer to yet. And it's the precursor and the pre-qualification to really knowing where to put your energy next. So I think that would be a great way for people to find out a little bit more about themselves, because I think it's a process. It changes over time.
Yeah. Well said, man. Well said.
Thank you.
Before we
Great
wrap,
questions. Yeah.
I always like asking that question because pretty much all the guests that I invite here, my purpose for this podcast, right, Purpose of a Pleasure, is to figure out what their purpose is and how they found their purpose. And it's only fair to share. Because I think when you live in your purpose, when you have the meaning, when you work on yourself, when you're doing something that's meaningful to you, that makes you happy, bro, that's happiness.
Yeah.
It's happiness in life. Because we spend the big chunk of our lives working.
Yeah.
Unless you're, Prince of Dubai, and probably even he works too, right? But so why not do something with your life? Because I'm pretty sure had you chosen the path of what your parents planned for you, had I chosen the path of what my parents had for me, and I was going to be a doctor too, I come from a family of medical workers, I would have hated myself in my life. I would have hated it.
Mm-hmm.
And you go there and your job is to serve others, but you hate yourself in your job, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's like the luck of the draw, right? That we have these little bit more of a rebellious personality,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where it's like, no, I'm going to find my own way.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of risk. It takes, a lot of sacrifice. But when you do find it, there's nothing that replaces it, right? When you wake up, you're like, I get to do what I want. There's no price to that.
Yeah, I agree. Beautifully said, brother. Beautifully said. Let them know, before we wrap this up, let them know where to find you.
Yeah.
Because I will be tagging in the comments, but give them your Instagram tags and the website.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody looking to tap into themselves, tune that human instrument, or just de-stress, come find us at Reality Center in Santa Monica. It's realitymanagement.com, realitymgmt.com, Reality Center on Instagram and Facebook. And we hope to see you and help you along the way.
Beautiful. There you guys. There you go, guys. Check them out. Show them some love. And if you found any value in this episode, please click like, subscribe, and share with those who you think might benefit from this. Because at the end of the day, you know, you guys just being part of our journey.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're getting Drake and Mark Cuban on this podcast. We got you, brother.
That's going to be a running joke. I love it. Thank you, man. Appreciate you being
Thank you,
here.
man. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. See you guys next time.